welcome to our first episode of the Retail Live Meet the Retailers web series. I am happy to be here with you guys. Thanks everybody for joining us. I'm going to introduce you to our panelists. We have Andy Howard of Huey Magoo's Chicken Tenders joining us. Andy, give us a wave.
Hey there. Hi, everybody.
We have Geoff Dyer of Crunch Fitness.
Good morning.
And we have Jodi Recalt of Chipotle with us as well.
Hi.
So how this is going to work, everybody, is we're going to run through some questions for Andy, Geoff, and Jodi, and they're going to let us know their roles at their respective companies, some site criteria, things like that, that will help you guys who are trying to submit some sites, and we'll just run through a couple questions with each of them. After we get through that, at the end of that part, we will have a Q&A for our participants. So go ahead through the chat option and submit your questions. And at the end, we will go ahead and let them answer some of the questions from our audience. So to keep this moving, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Andy, I've got the first question for you. If you don't mind, I think there's probably a good portion of our audience that doesn't know about Huey Magoo's and what you guys do and where you are, and we'd like to hear more about Huey Magoo. So can you just give us the Reader's Digest?
Sure. Thanks, Stacey. Good to be with everybody. So Huey Magoo's is a fast casual chicken tender concept. And maybe I ought to take a quick step back. I've been in this unbelievably exciting business for 35 years or so. And just prior to purchasing the Huey Magoo's brand, I was a senior executive with Wingstop Restaurants, today over 12 or 1,300 stores, nationally, internationally, phenomenal success. And I take a little bit of credit for some of that success. But segueing from Wingstop to finding what I was in search of was the world's greatest chicken tender concept. And I luckily found Huey Magoo's. At the time, just a couple of stores in Orlando, Florida. The company was actually founded in 2004, but fast forward about 5 years ago, I got together with the original partners who are still my partners, Matt Armstrong and Thad Hudgens, and I brought some of my key folks over from Wingstop, Mike Sutter, who's our Chief Operating Officer, some other folks that are in our operations and training team, some of the investors that are on our board of directors. So again, we're today 13 stores throughout Florida. We just opened in Georgia, a little town called Loganville. And we have already sold over 100 franchises, not only throughout Florida and Georgia, but now we'll be in Mississippi, we'll be in Tennessee, we'll be in South Carolina, and looking to continue to expand, mainly Southeast, but for us, it's really all about who the franchisee is in selecting that process. So we are mainly a franchise-driven company, and I hope that answers a little bit of who we are and what we are.
It does. Thank you. Thank you so much. I know I said I was going to mix up the questions, but I think to get started, I'm going to ask the other two panelists the same question, just so everybody's, on the same page. I think you're sleeping under a rock if you don't know who Chipotle is, but Jodi, I'm going to ask you that anyway, if you want to just share your history with the company and where you guys are at today.
Sure. So come next month, it's 14 really exciting years with Chipotle. And I got amazingly lucky. I've always done dry retail, Blockbuster, Hair Cuttery, Dollar Tree for a short stint. And there was this cool little restaurant in Boca I never heard of. And I happened to stop there for lunch, and someone I had networked with at a ICSC years ago called me and said, "Hey, do you know anybody?" I was like, "No." And then I went and tried it, and there were only two of us that they actually spoke to, and unfortunately, one of them, when they asked him what his favorite food was, he said fish tacos. We don't serve. And so by default, they were stuck with me, and they still are. I'm never leaving. I think we had 20 units at the time, and we are almost 180 in Florida now. I do all of Florida except for the Panhandle. And we are still aggressively growing, thankfully. So thankfully, the company's over 2,500 units in total. Europe, Canada. I don't think we operate in like Alaska, Hawaii, and I believe Mississippi are the only places, although I think that's planned. It's not mine. So I am Florida focused, for sure, Florida focused, still with a lot of growth left to do in the major metros and some of the smaller towns. Anyone who's familiar with Florida knows it's a compilation of small towns.
Right.
You have the big metros and then you have the tiny of the tiny. And we're doing those too.
Awesome.
So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Thank you. So I have to give full disclosure. Geoff Dyer, of course, as I mentioned, is with Crunch. I am his broker. So I know the answers to these questions, but all of you don't. Of course, I'm going to put my favorite client up here on this panel. Geoff, you want to give a little bit of background on yourself and, of course, the brand and where Crunch is headed?
Sure. Yeah, Crunch is the fastest growing brand in the fitness industry today. In the fitness industry, you have two different groups that are growing explosively. One is in the boutique sector, which typically might include Orange Theory or Barry's Boot Camp, small footprint. Then in the commercial space, you have high value, low price is the other category that's exploding. And that is being led by Planet Fitness with about 2,000 locations and Crunch with about 330. We're very different in the way in the clientele that we serve. Crunch is an edgy, cool, hip, millennial-driven brand. Typically, our clubs are about 25,000 square feet, although we've got a 45,000 square foot club we're building in Melbourne today. So we're looking at all options, nothing less than 22,000, all the way up to 45, 50,000. We currently have development rights. It's a franchise system. So Crunch is in 7 countries, again, adding about 75 clubs a year on a base of 330. Our group is called CR Fitness Holdings. We have development rights for the East Coast and West Coast of Florida, Central Florida, and Atlanta, Georgia. Currently, we have 21 clubs, not open today, but 21 clubs, and we have 10 more in various stages of development that will open over the next 12 months. We purchased rights to build 120 clubs, and we recently took in a big equity infusion from North Castle Partners. So we've got the capital for growth. We've got a very cool brand. I'll explain the difference between us and Planet at a later point in the meeting. My role as president and my duties are site selection and marketing. We've got a very well organized team, and we've built many clubs before. So we're lucky to know what we're doing as we go through this development curve. Thank you.
Thanks, Geoff. Okay, so Jodi, I'm going to go back to you, just mixing it up to keep you guys all on point and paying attention. Jodi, I know that, I've done brokerage for, 20 years, and you've been doing, work on behalf of brands for a long time as well.
Wow.
So you've had folks like me pestering you with sites that they want to present, and I'm just curious. I know that, I too get a lot of sites submitted to me for my clients, and a lot of times the criteria is not met. What tips can you give our participants on the best way to submit a site, and what you like to see and maybe what you don't like to see, any pet peeves, anything that they could learn in that regard on how to submit a site to you and get your attention?
Sure. So whether it's at an ICSC or it's a telephone call or, whatever it is, I think it's really important that you know where my existing restaurant is. I can't explain how many times I get an email, a phone call. I have the perfect site. It's always the perfect site. I have the perfect site, and I'll wait. I've got a store a quarter of a mile away. And sometimes it's an embarrassing moment, and I thought maybe you'd want to move it. No, you didn't. You didn't know it was there. So that to me is like that and a size. Don't bring me a 6,000 square foot restaurant unless there's an ability to demise it. I don't expect people to know the history of Chipotle, but at this point in our evolution, I'm still really surprised at how many people think that we're franchise.
Yeah.
It's all corporate, and that there are a few things that'll rub me instantly the wrong way, and probably because I've just been doing this for a long
Okay, so,
time. And
so I want to know, those are,
you know, you have a franchisee for Lake Wales. You know, I don't. Can I buy a franchise? Yeah, if I could, I would. No, we don't. Spaces that are too big and not knowing where we are. I don't care if it's an email. I don't care if it's a phone call. I like to make myself as accessible. You can call my brokers. I like to make myself as accessible as possible. I did get a LinkedIn site request recently. I didn't love that. I don't check LinkedIn as much maybe as other people. And to me, that's not the most efficient way to send me a site. And then because I didn't check it, he was annoyed that it took me like a week to get back to him.
right.
So yeah, I think size, knowing the position of and it can't hurt to ask me if I want to relocate it. That's not going to turn me off. But not even knowing it's there or confusing me. I've had that happen too with Moe's or no.
Yeah, so
Just
I think, you know, and I'll be the first to admit, when I first started doing leasing 20 years ago, you know, you're right. You're so excited to submit sites that you don't stop to educate yourself on the brand and their locations and their criteria. You're just, you know, rapid firing off emails to various, you know, retailers, anybody that might, you know, you think might work. And so I think really what you're saying is, you know, look into who we are and where we go and what our criteria is before you bother me, because the main thing to get somebody's attention is to actually submit a site that is at least checking the very basic boxes, which include not being too close to a current location and being the right size.
And I certainly don't mind. Everyone has a first day sometime. The more seasoned ones, I don't get that at all. But I don't expect you to know that we don't use GMOs or that I don't expect that. This is about real estate for me, and that's what it should be for about you. Throw an idea. Just don't pretend like you knew my location was there and you wanted to see, you had this genius idea. Just tell it like it is.
Right.
I mean, I think everybody who knows me knows that's a big deal to me.
Yep. And if they don't know, they're going to find out soon.
They know now.
Andy, I know I said I wasn't going to be going that way. So I want to know from you, Andy, what do you like the sites to be submitted directly to you? Do you prefer that they go through your broker so that they can field those for you first, or you know, both? And same question to you, what do you like to see in those site submittals to help our audience so they know what to get to you if they have a site
Sure.
for you?
Sure, thanks. I guess unlike Jodi, with thousands of stores, we've got a pretty broad, wide open white canvas. We've got 13 stores open today and hopefully another 100, and then continuing on selling franchises. So we're pretty wide open where we're not too often stepping on toes. We have come together with a great group based in Orlando called Archon Brokers. Dave Cobb, John Helene. They are really almost like in-house to us, even though they're their own separate company. And they have taken the lead to then connect us with a variety of brokers around the country, an organization that they are involved with called SiteSource. We've teamed up with a lot of great brokers. Mike Menahan comes to mind in Georgia, and Jeremy Krell in the Tampa market, and Drew Mongol in Jacksonville. So to go around the list. So we like the sites to be presented to our brokers, and you know, we look at all the analytics demographically. You know, again, unlike, and I'm certainly jealous of Jodi and Geoff with many stores, because when you have multiple stores, you can find out the hot buttons. So with only 13, we're still kind of creating our model of what makes a great site and what doesn't. So that's really part of the analysis that we do. And really the folks at Archon have learned so much about our brand and what the hot buttons are. I'll tell you, as simple as we do like to look at competitors, and competitors are really, you know, most of the big guys in the chicken category, and specifically the chicken tender category, starting with the 80-pound gorilla Chick-fil-A, amazing company. It's almost like you got to throw them out when you analyze, because every one of their stores, almost no matter where it is, does mega millions of dollars, and they're just phenomenal. But then go down the list of Raising Cane's and PDQ, and even to some extent in fast casual, we would look at Jodi's beautiful brand to see how they're doing in certain markets, because I think there's probably some shared customers. So the more analytics we can do, the better we are. We're learning about small town versus big cities, and we've got different models that maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later on some other questions of what size we specifically look for. We're actually just getting into the drive-through business, which has been an incredibly exciting venture for us too. So we'll talk about that maybe in some other questions. But analytics is important. You say what we don't like, I guess ridiculously high rents. We could probably say that for everybody. You know, what does that mean? You know, you're always trying to equate how much sales you can do versus what you can pay in rent. And sometimes brokers will try to push you to limits that you really haven't reached yet. But, oh, if you pay $50, $60, $70 a foot, you're going to break all kinds of sales records. Well, my feeling is until you prove out that you can do unbelievable business, we're not going to spend those kind of dollars, at least not yet. I don't know if we ever will, but we really want to keep a business model and spend what we think, you know, this brand can afford based on the sales we're doing. And mind you, we're breaking, other than the virus time here, we've been breaking sales records week after week, month after month here. Our comps prior to, you know, the virus, we're up 16% this year versus last year. Again, it's a small base of stores, but nonetheless, I'm not making excuses. We're proud of what we're doing.
That's good, as you should be. Geoff,
Yep.
do you prefer sites be sent to your broker, to you, or both? And what's important in those site submittals for Crunch?
I'd like them all to go to my broker, but I like to be copied on them so that I can, if I see something, I want to be able to seize on the opportunity. But
So you can stay on me. So you can stay on me to be responsive if something's good.
Yeah. No, I much prefer everything go to Stacey. But we have different brokers in different markets as well as Stacey. So, and we're very front and center. We're very active in the real estate shows, the local ICSC shows, Retail Live in Orlando. We love being connected to the developers. It's a great industry, and we love what we do. The things that we don't like, we can't fit our model inside less than 22,000 square feet. So we don't like to be presented anything less unless it can be expanded. Otherwise, we're wasting our time. And we need parking. So we need about 8 parks per 1,000. So if we have 22,000 square feet, we need about 175 parks. That's a deal breaker. We're not going to constrain the business because we don't have adequate parking. And we pull from within a 10-minute drive time. So our members won't drive longer than 10 minutes to get to the gym as a rule. So all of our clubs need to be 20 minutes apart. So we like, as far as our development strategy, we have clubs in Atlanta. We like to build on the existing base of clubs. We don't want to be all over the town. We want to cluster our clubs around each other. Same thing in Orlando, same thing in the East Coast and West Coast. Although we'd never turn down a one-off market if it's the right economics. But we prefer a clustered approach to our development.
Thank you, Geoff.
Thank you.
So it's funny, in advance of this webinar and participants knowing that we're having it, and, you know, while I don't want to spend, well, we're all sick of talking about COVID. We can't help but keep talking about it. And I think, you know, I know for me, through my capacity as the owner of Retail Live, I've clearly had to make adjustments, which is why we're having this webinar. And I think anybody that's running a business in any capacity is making those, excuse me, making those adjustments as well. And so I'm curious to hear from you. I'll just leave it with you, Geoff, what you guys are doing in response to obviously having to close all your gyms. And if you've learned anything through that exercise, and then beyond that, once you are able to reopen, if any of those things that you've implemented today in response to COVID, if there's anything that you will actually keep going forward that has kind of surprised you, that you've learned from all of this.
Yeah, well, I read the chat question. It looks like, first of all, when do you expect to reopen? So we're hoping a date between the middle of May and the 1st of June. That would fit our economic model a lot better than July. So we're optimistic that that might happen. We obviously, being in the gym business, we have very high usage. We might have as many as 35, 40,000 visits a month. That's a big difference between us and Planet Fitness. Our members attend twice as often. So we are concerned about social distancing and what the rules might be there. So without knowing what they are, we're obviously totally revamping all of our attention to the cleaning schedules. We're mandating that all members have to bring in a workout towel when they work out. We're obviously looking at gloves and masks and foggers and all the different things that we can do to make our members feel comfortable. We've also surveyed all of our members, and for the most part, all of our members are planning to come back. I think that's one thing we've all learned is it's very boring to sit at home all by yourself, and we all see a lot of activity out on the street, but I think a lot of people genuinely do miss the gym. We've got a lot of friends in Asia and that have gone through this, friends in Canada that went through SARS, friends in Asia that went through the Asian flu, and apparently the rebound is very, very strong at the other end. The question is what kind of government regulations are going to be need to be adhered to in order to continue to operate. Obviously, one thing we have done is apply for all the SBA funding. We've got that approved for almost all clubs, and we're going through the payroll program at the moment. But yeah, we're keen to get open again.
Sooner rather than later, just like the rest of us, right?
Yep.
Andy and Jodi, and I'll let Andy, you can go first. I know even in advance of this, I had a couple people emailing me specific questions they were hoping we would ask, and I've seen it pop up on the chat here. And that is related to drive-thrus. And, how important are those to you guys? Andy, I'm not sure if Huey Magoo's has drive-thrus right now. And if they do, are you gonna, how important is that to you? How important will that be in the future? Will you be making any adjustments again in light of kind of what you've learned through this process? You can just speak a little bit to that. Andy, I'll start with you.
Sure, thanks. So specifically on drive-thrus, as I mentioned, we are testing it, and what that means is we do have a drive-thru in Ocoee, which is a suburb of Orlando, Florida, an end cap of a strip, and actually doing phenomenally well, especially through this time. We also have a freestanding building in Loganville, Georgia, that actually is being used as a pickup window, again, doing very, very well. The other stores that are operating are strip centers, either end cap or middle of a strip. And, we're doing everything we can, with the virus to keep social distancing. We've got curbside pickup. We do have a lot of stores in development that will have drive-thrus. We're still learning. We think that will be a big part of our future. We want to get more of them open and operating to really know the unit economics of that versus a strip center. Obviously, they cost somewhat more, depending if it's freestanding, depending if you're building from scratch, second gens, et cetera, et cetera. So we've got a variety of different ways we can develop our brand right now. And as we continue to get more and more of the drive-thrus under our belt, we think that will be a big part of our future. I don't know that we'll ever demand or say we must be 100% drive-thru, because they are difficult to find based on real estate. based on cost. So to keep our development schedules on schedule, we'll probably do some and some, but we're going to learn a lot more over the next 12 months on the whole drive-through platform.
Okay, thank you. Jodi, what do you think about drive-thrus?
So they don't operate for us really as a traditional drive-through. We call them Chipotle lanes because we're too cool to call them pickup windows, but that's what they are. They're pickup windows. You order it on your app and you go and you pull up to the window and they hand it to you. And so we were already doing that, thankfully, prior to this. I believe in the system last year, although they pulled the trigger really quick, like we want them, and then all of a sudden we had, 50 or 60 of them around the country. So this unfortunate event, in every jurisdiction, what you're allowed to do in a restaurant is different. We were already set up very well with the delivery partners, and our food does deliver really well. And if you order it through the Chipotle app, it's free through DoorDash or whoever they match you with. So
I did not know that. That's great to know.
it was a good shameless plug. And so and it travels really well. I wasn't sure that it did because I don't usually do it that way, but it does, travels really well. So we've got 3 in Florida so far. It's hard to measure that. However, in Columbus, we just did convert one. In Ohio, we just converted one that was not a drive-through, and we put a pickup window on it. So we'll have some really good data really, really soon, but a good portion of our focus has been since early last year to add these pickup lanes. They still permit like one that we still pay for them like they're a drive-through because they're not cheap. They're expensive. They're very expensive. That end cap on the corner where we want to be with the drive-through is pricey.
Right. I didn't get to ask you what, if anything, I mean, I think you've kind of answered the question, but I just want to make sure you have the opportunity. What adjustments Chipotle has made in terms of operations with COVID? Have you seen anything specific in response to that, or anything that you feel like, or you're kind of surprised by that's working particularly well?
Again, it's a shameless plug. For anybody who did live under a rock, we had a slight food issue a couple of years ago, and it completely changed the way we did business in terms of hygiene inside the restaurant. We never were really able to figure out what had happened, and so we shut those restaurants down, and it popped up here and there. And one of the reasons we couldn't figure it out is because Chipotle doesn't have any freezers. They're refrigerators. We don't freeze anything. And so by the time, unfortunately, people got sick, all that food was gone. So we had already implemented these very strong safety standards. And now, I mean, I can't be more proud of this company and thankful as well. There are places where we are not operating. New York City, it just doesn't pay. There's nobody there. And there are some on very small basis. But depending on the jurisdiction, so you can walk into some of them you can't. We're doing curbside. We have adopted, like everyone else, they assembled what we're calling a COVID task force at our corporate headquarters in California, which is not open because California is on lockdown. And we do weekly total company phone calls, WebEx, where there's 3,000 people on the phone and they're giving us updates of what they know. Masks, gloves, washing. None of our employees have to work if they don't want to. And we were, again, already kind of doing these before you can walk into the kitchen. They ask you these very personal and embarrassing questions in front of whoever about, are you sick? And if you are, they send you home.
This is before COVID?
This was even before. Yeah. I didn't know it. I happened to walk into one and he was like, wait. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't even know you. And so if they don't, if there's a secret shopper, they'll be terminated. It was a real deal before. So I think they've, that is amplified. They keep stressing that. And I think one of the things the company's done really well to respond to that is they will still pay them if they have to go home. They've upped the sick time. We don't want you working if you're sick, period.
That's great.
And I think when people know they're still going to get a check, you know, we've guaranteed their bonuses. We gave the crew members a raise. You know, they've responded really well to this.
That's great. Thank you. I do want to let everybody know, I see several people asking about having access to our panelists' contact information and brokers' information. And so, a shameless plug, you can get all three of their information by going to the Retail Live website on the home page, just below the main image, and downloading the trade books, which we have made available for free through the end of the month, which normally they are not free. You have to attend a Retail Live event in order to get one of those. But as a resource for everyone going through this, trying to, you know, drum up business, we've made those free to anybody that wants to download them. Andy, Geoff, and Jodi's information all three of them are in that book. So it is the Southeast 2020 Trade Book. You're welcome to download that, as well as the other two that are on there to get access to their contact information and their broker's contact information. It's all in that book. So I just want to mention that because I see a couple people asking. I also want to ask you guys, prior to COVID, how many stores were you planning to open, you know, for the remainder of the year and through 2021? And how has COVID affected that planned store growth? Have you stopped looking for new locations? Are you still negotiating based on future openings, or, you know, just how have you adjusted that opening schedule? And Geoff, I'll start with you.
Yeah, we just built our 21st club. It's fully equipped and sitting empty in Brandon. So, but we haven't changed a thing. We have 10 additional sites that are in various stages of development. And one of those is Atlanta. The other 9 are in Florida. We're negotiating now for additional sites while even during the shutdown. So, yeah, we're still very bullish on the future development. And have no plans to halt that. One thing that will happen as a result of this shutdown is it will create a lot of opportunities for us. There are some major brands that are in financial trouble, and so if there are developers on the call that have health clubs as tenants, we certainly would be interested in any location that meets our physical need of greater than 22,000 square feet. So we do anticipate there'll be opportunities for us to go in behind someone that can't survive the crisis. But yeah, we're not slowing down our growth. We continue to feel very bullish about our brand and very bullish about our future in this space.
And just so everybody knows, Geoff, I don't think that you mentioned, but you're expanding, you know, pretty much throughout the state as your territory, with the exception of Tallahassee, Jacksonville, and the Panhandle area, and then the Atlanta market. And so how many units do you want to secure for 2021? I don't know. I'm sorry if you mentioned that.
No. We'll finish 2020. We'll finish 2020 with 28 clubs open. We should finish next year with a minimum of 36 open, but obviously that doesn't anticipate any kind of acquisition opportunity or new opportunities. So we're on an 8 to 10 club growth plan right now, or we're on that kind of a growth plan, but that may accelerate if there's some shutdowns. We feel that we can build 40 clubs in Atlanta. We feel that we could build 20 in Orlando, 35 in the west coast of Florida, and 35 on the east coast of Florida. So we're on a schedule to grow to 120 clubs over the next 5 years.
Thank you. Andy, how many units prior to COVID? I mean, did you have a goal? You know, we want to open 6 units in 2020 and another 6 in 2021, and whatever that number was, has that been adjusted because of the present circumstances?
Yeah, we have probably more brand new franchisees in development that have never opened a single store, plus the ones that already are operating, and all of them together are all moving forward with new store development. We were hoping to get, so with the 13 that are open right now, another 8 to 10 open by the end of 2020. That's probably going to be a little bit less than that. It may be in the 5, 6, 7 range, but then we'll pick that up in 2021. We'll probably open, again, a little bit of a moving target, somewhere between 10 and 15 stores. And again, we're even on the franchise sales side, those folks that were interested prior to the virus are still even more excited than ever to finally get going with Huey Magoo. So we'll be signing up new franchisees all the time. You know, second gens, existing drive-throughs, end caps. We're also have an express unit on colleges where we can get them. And some of the negotiations actually are interesting, even if we're not on a college. That demographic is really a slam dunk for us. We try to get near colleges where we can. And the way we're negotiating some of those leases, because colleges are actually closed down and not exactly sure when we're going to open. And if we're going to be very, very dependent on the college student, we're writing into the lease that we're not going to open until the college reopens. So we may need a little bit extended period of time in those situations. But we have a lot of sophisticated franchisees that usually are operating other brands. So they understand the business, they understand their home markets, they understand real estate, and we're full steam ahead. Our brand being, you know, fast casual and a lot of takeout already. We're of course down some from the peak times, but we're set up and doing a great job with the takeout format anyway. So we're fortunate.
That's great. That's really great to hear. Jodi, I think you kind of answered how many units, but if you can just, you know, again, just real quickly, how many units do you have planned for growth for the remainder of 2020 and into 2021?
Well, what my plan and what's going to actually happen have become two different things very, very quickly because, you know, permitting challenges in Florida have always been difficult. They are increasingly difficult when cities are shut down or limited staff or. So my original plan was to open 15. I'll be very happy if we can hit 12. It's just, you know, every jurisdiction is different. Dade County's a nightmare. It's always been, it's been tough. And what changed during this process is I have, unfortunately, people who don't want to commit to timelines either because they're scared too and they don't know if they're going to get through the permit process. So I would have loved to have hit 20. We as a company, thank God, have not slowed down. In fact, we are full charge ahead and we talk about it constantly. We have very aggressive goals for next year. Next year, I'd probably be looking to do 20 plus the ones that roll over from this year. And that's just Tallahassee out. I don't
think to hear for all of us, you know. I think all of us are in this state of, is anybody going to be doing deals and are they going to reopen and what is it going to look like? We all are having those conversations whenever we talk to anybody in our industry. And it's certainly refreshing to hear from all three of you that, you know, you are bullish on growth and keeping up with what you've been doing. So thank you for that. I wanted to just ask you guys, give each of you the opportunity to, and this isn't a required thing, but if there's anything additional that you want to share specific to your brand, whether that's, you know, hey, I really need a location in XYZ submarket, or, you know, just anything that you feel might be important for the audience to know, keeping in mind that the majority of the folks on here hopefully are people that have sites that may be a fit for one or all of you guys. But if there's anything that, you know, we haven't covered in any capacity that you want to share with the group, this is the opportunity to do that. Jodi, I'll just start with you.
So, you know, this is such a weird, scary, you know, uncomfortable time for everybody. And I've been trying to tell as many people as I can. Obviously, our desire is for Chipotle's, drive-thrus. And maybe you have to be creative with that. Maybe there is a vacant, you know, not to be named or soon to be mattress store. and we can redo it. So I think right now, because everyone is so challenged, we probably all need to be a little bit creative. I've been encouraging locals because I communicate with them more. If you have a local mom and pop and they just can't make it, and that's not to pick over their carcass, but maybe we can help them get out of it so they don't lose their entire life savings and are sued for the rest of their life. Bring it to me, bring it to us. Maybe there's something in that for them and something in that for us too. So this is going to pass, and which is why we are still pushing forward, because when it passes, we don't want to be behind the curve of, we haven't hit hurricane season yet here in Florida. That slows everything down to a crawl for days and days and days. So I want to see as many sites as we can. My brokers love to see as many sites as they can. Existing restaurants, let's be creative and so that we can all get through this in some way.
I think that's wonderful. I mean, I think that we're all trying to help each other out, and if there's one good thing that's come out of all of this, that's certainly one of them. I see people really coming together and working together in a way that they haven't before. So I think
there is a local person here. I won't call her out and embarrass her, but she said something really profound the other day on our live feed, that we don't want to get to the end of this and say the best thing we did was recommend a good Netflix show.
Right.
There's something all of us can do, whatever that is. We should at least try to do it. In this house, it's puppies. It's foster puppies.
4 of them.
And I foster. That's how I got 4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You're not busier.
Yeah.
Geoff, is there anything that you want to expand upon or comment that we haven't talked about yet?
Yeah, I'd just like to explain a little bit about the Crunch brand and our customer, and how we might be different to Planet Fitness. First of all, I think Planet Fitness is a great brand. It does a great job bringing non-exercises into fitness. But clearly Planet targets that overweight, deconditioned customer. Crunch, on the other hand, targets that active exercises. So when you look at, if you're a developer and you're looking at either one of those as an option, where Crunch is different, we have a younger membership slightly. The average age is 34, 2/3 are millennials. Everyone pays electronically. We don't sell any annual memberships. There's no gotchas. There's no contracts. We're very consumer friendly. Our customer is fit, healthy, active, so they are going to spend money on hair, nails, massage, all those other add-on features that you might be able to rent to. Even though we like 22 to 45,000, if you've got a 60,000 square foot box, we have co-tenants that might take the other space. So yeah, we're excited about how flexible we are when it comes to space utilization. And I just wanted to make sure people understood the difference between us and the Planet. So that's about it.
Thanks, Geoff. That's good. Andy, anything you want to tell the audience that we haven't already covered?
Sure. I've been thinking about this one a lot. I'm really upset with this virus. You read about, I mean, that's an understatement. You read about in our restaurant world closures that are happening at no fault of the operator. Great brands that were hit with this that are full service, don't understand takeout, that's not their format, and are just faced with this incredible, difficult challenge, and they may go away. Now, okay, for us I'm very hopeful we're going to survive and we're going to come out stronger on the other side. So that means more possibilities for us, second generations that fit our model. But the unfortunate situation is just incredible, feeling of no fault of operators that they're going to be going away. So anyway, just wanted to say that. Moving forward, We are looking at all the various options on development. We are continuing to be a takeout focused, even though we look forward to being able to reopen our dining rooms, because that's still a fun time. We've got a great feel, a great look, a great design at Huey Magoo's, and people love to come in and eat as well as take it out. Like we said in the past, drive-thrus are going to become more and more of a development strategy for us. So, we're excited. We got a big, bright future ahead of us. We got great franchisees. We're very particular who we bring on. We want them to feel a big, big part of our culture, our passion. I think, coming out of this too, we've always been a caring company. I think if anything, we're going to be even more caring to ourselves, to our employees, to our franchisees, and ultimately to our guests.
I love that. I've learned a lot in that regard as well, Andy, through this. So thank you for that. So right now, guys, we're gonna open up the Q&A. We've got people that have been, of course, asking questions all along. And so I'm gonna go ahead and start that. We've got about 10 minutes left and we'll be wrapping this up. I know that some of you have hard stops at 11. So the first question I have is for, let's see, we're gonna go with Jodi and Andy. Let's see, Joe Wagner out of Boston, Massachusetts. Joe, hello. Wants to know if, let's see, if you've considered opening your own ghost kitchen or commercial kitchens like a cloud kitchen or commissary, et cetera, in response to this, or if you're more comfortable doing that or going forward. Have your companies talked about, obviously even before this, there was a lot of talk about that. Have either of your concepts considered that? Would you consider it? What do you think about it, Jodi?
So, again, actually, it's almost, when I consider that before this happened, we already had some pretty stringent safety standards. And before this happened, we were already well engaged in the pickup lane. And before this happened, they were already working on that, on pickup only, and a lot of that will happen in probably in California first. They'll pick select markets. We don't test too many things in Florida like that. We still have a lot of opportunity, thankfully. Although I am jealous of Andy because at 13 restaurants, it's so wide open. I remember that. It was so exciting. You can really, now I actually have to think about what I do all day. It's terrible. And so it's awful. They were already working on things like that. They have a very visionary development group, and we hired a new CDO a couple of years ago now, and she has assembled this amazing team that has been thinking of all these things already. So there will be something like that at some point in some markets, and they haven't identified those yet to me. So it's a great question. It's a great idea. And there will be, they're working on them already.
Yeah, because I think obviously something that, again, it's like, it's like your comment about being able to pre-order through your website. I think many of us were doing that and we're taught that through the Starbucks, order in advance and pick up. And now that we're all forced to be at home, some of us who maybe had never used Uber Eats or DoorDash or all those options are now using those, hopefully to support our local restaurants and larger restaurants and keep everybody in business. And I think what Joe is trying to get at as well is just knowing that now and the volume you can do through those, online ordering and delivery systems. Does it make you think about having a kitchen elsewhere specifically dedicated toward, those delivery systems? And does that increase in business, continue? Obviously not at the volume it is right now, but is there a spike in that, going forward? Because now people have gotten their lesson in how to use all that, which, a lot of people weren't doing that before. And how does that impact, the idea that maybe there are some ghost kitchens specifically dedicated toward those delivery systems as opposed to, going through the restaurants. I don't know, Andy, if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, yeah, Jodi says she's jealous of me with 13 stores, and I guess I'm going to flip it on her. You talk about ghost kitchens. Okay, the task force. All right, and I don't know, I'm being facetious when I say this. All right, 50 people in Chipotle, you handle that one. And what's the coronavirus task force? Okay, the other 50. Well, here we are, myself and Mike Sutter and Sean Lawler and Matt Polo. So small corporate entities that barely have a handful of people. And we're faced with this incredible challenge of how do we keep this brand afloat? How do we move forward with all of these things we're faced with? And there's only a handful of us to do all of these things and really to compete with the big boys. It is a real challenge. Everybody is working 24/7. I couldn't be more proud of our team of what they're doing. And every day it's another challenge just to get through the day. So yeah, one of these days we'll have the big corporate staff to do even consider ghost kitchens, but it's not on the drawing board right now. We're just surviving and doing a good job at it.
Okay. Well, we're gonna keep track of you, Andy, and see what happens down the road. Geoff, I have a question for you. Someone in the audience has asked how you feel about competition. Specifically, they were asking if you would go. They named Planet Fitness. If they're on one corner, would you go opposite of them? And I think I'll open that up just in general. How do you feel about competition and their proximity to you, and does that deter you from a site?
Yeah, no, we're quite comfortable going across the road from a Planet. In fact, we've done that repeatedly over the last 2 years, and we're not over the top, but yeah, we don't have a problem with that. One way to look at a market is if you've got 100,000 people in a market within a 10-minute drive time, 20% of the US population belongs to a gym. So there's 20,000 members in that market. So if there's 10 gyms, we probably wouldn't want to be in the middle of all that. But there's the country is under club, so there's definitely an opportunity for growth. But we're not afraid of the competition.
Okay, thank you. Boy, I've got people just asking who represents you guys in every single pocket of the world. So I think you guys, you're going to be able to get Jodi, Geoff, and Andy's contact information if you download that trade book. Their broker representatives for the Southeast are contained within that book. Some of the other books have Chipotle's information in it, but at least you can get to Geoff, Andy, or Jodi with respect to who their brokers are, or I'm sure they would be gracious enough to get you a contact in some of the other markets if you're you're not in the Southeast, if you're in Texas, or anywhere else. You can get with them by downloading that trade book, and I'm sure that they will help you. You're all welcome to reach out to me. By now you guys all have my email address. I've pestered probably everyone on this webinar at one point or another, but if you don't have my email, it's Stacey@retaillive.com. Email me. I'm happy to connect anybody on here with a contact that they're looking for, whether that's a broker for one of our panelists or anyone else. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. It's been great to have you guys. Really appreciate you sharing your time and learning more about your brands. And everybody out there, if there's a retailer that you want to see on our next webinar, please reach out to me and let me know and encourage them to participate. We would love to have them. As a reminder, our website is retaillive.com. You can sign up for our future webinars on our website. Follow me on LinkedIn on Stacey Mooney. All Retail Live posts are there. And I tagged Andy, Geoff, and Jodi today and yesterday on this panel. So if you want to connect with them, you can certainly find them there as well. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Stay safe. And thanks for joining us. Hope to see you next time.